Welcome to Recently Logged, where this week... Pss, 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 pss. Which for context, we're talking about Alien.
We're talking about Alien.
And it's really funny and I laugh at it every time I've watched Alien, because in the climax of Alien, like, everybody's dying. Ripley is there, and Jones the cat is not to be found, and for some reason that's what she's focused on. So in the middle of this big climax for Alien, she goes pss, 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 to find this cat, and I laugh at it every time.
It's quite good. But yes, hello there.
Hi,
my name is Robbie.
And I'm Micah.
And we talk about movies on our podcast called Recently Logged that you're listening to right now.
Or whoa, right in your ears.
Right in your ear. Ooh. I don't like it. But speaking of something I don't like, and that is uncomfortable, more in a visceral sense, I'm quite fond of it. But it's called Alien.
Got the ear huggers, apparently.
Yeah, I was about to say,
it's just headphones.
I'm sure there's a podcast out there that is like an alien discussion podcast called like Ear Huggers or something like that, because of course there would be.
Wow.
But yes, we're talking about Alien this week.
Yes.
And I hope you enjoy our discussion on it.
Wow, we do hope you enjoy what we're about to present. What?
I mean, I do hope that they enjoy.
What are you talking about? Let's carry on the podcast, Ravi. What are you doing? Let's get into what you need to know about Alien. Alright, so Alien is what we're talking about, as you can imagine. It is a 1979 film.
Yes.
Rated R. It is an hour and 57 minutes. Its little IMDb description is: the crew of a commercial spacecraft encounters a deadly life form after investigating an unknown transmission. It won 1 Oscar for Best Visual Effects.
Nice.
And was nominated for Best Art direction / set direction.
It really should have won.
What beat it? What beat it? Hold on, that would be what, like the 1980s.
That would
Oscars?
be the 80s Oscars, yeah.
What one?
But like
best set direction.
Oh my
1980s Oscars.
But yeah, no, I mean it should have won.
Midnight Express.
Midnight Express.
I don't even know what that is.
I mean, I've seen some stuff from that movie. Sounds kind of
lame.
I've seen some stuff from that movie, and it does look good, but like
sounds kind of lame.
Alien should have won.
Its cast features Sigourney Weaver.
Yes.
Tom Skerritt, John Hurt.
Nice.
Veronica Cartwright.
Yes.
If it'll load more. Harry Dean Stanton.
You only get a few
Ian
people.
Holm, Yepet Koto, and more people. There, that's most of the people.
It's a very small cast.
Yeah, I think that's everybody but like the non-human characters.
Yeah, I was going to say very small cast, relatively speaking.
Directed by Ridley Scott. I almost said Ridley O'Bannon because it's directed by Dan O'Bannon, and I'm getting ahead of myself. I mean, written by Dan O'Bannon.
Oh my goodness!
And I'm getting ahead of myself. my eyes are darting all over.
What was that
place.
about Ridley O'Bannon?
It's directed by Ridley Scott, written by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett.
Ooh, cool name.
If I can get words out.
But yes, it's Alien.
And it's composed. The music is composed by Jerry Goldsmith.
Quite a good composer, I
think. And cinematographer is done by Derek Vanlint, which I found out has done cinematography for like nothing else. 4 movies, one of them being a short film, the other 2 having been stuff that either has got a bad average or just like doesn't look very good. Like, it's Alien. He shot Alien. He shot Alien, and Alien looks so good, but he did like nothing else. But anyway, that's what you need to know.
You need to know
about Alien. That's all you need to know.
All right. Well, let's move on and let the people know what we thought of Alien, Micah.
Yes. So, Robbie, if you could put it into some kind of words on some kind of podcast that some kind of people would listen to, how would you summarize how you feel about Alien, the movie?
I would say that I love it. And that it was...
very concise. We don't need anything. He loves it.
I was going to say, very, very, very concise opinion on Alien. But yeah, no, I mean, I can tell you why I love it, Mike.
Well, keep it brief.
Okay. I really love the way it's shot. I love its atmosphere. I love the cast. I don't know. It's a horror sci-fi classic for a reason. I still find it very funny that it was like greenlit like in the wake of Star Wars, and you got something this like radically different than Star Wars. But yeah, no, it's I mean, it's an amazing film.
Just picture all of the young kids being like, "But Mom, it's just like Star Wars, like Star I promise."
Wars. Exactly.
Convincing their parents to take them to go see this. I guarantee that happened.
I mean, I think it's just a masterwork of like its craft in filmmaking, and especially in sci-fi filmmaking. There's really not much else like it. Even today. So yeah, it's a great film.
Nice. What did you rate it, Remy?
I gave it a 5 out of 5.
Amazing.
Yes.
I also absolutely love this film.
I mean, who doesn't? It's Alien.
I had a really cool first screening experience. I can't speak today. I can't speak today. A very cool first screening experience that like was a cool way to watch it for the first time, and then like it's just a fantastic movie. It's such a great movie to be in. The set direction and everything and set designers, nothing but props to them, because this set genuinely looks amazing and just feels amazing to be on. Yeah, man. On top of just some outstanding cinematography and lighting. Like this is
sound design too, man.
Probably the best looking like sci-fi movie ever, next to like Blade Runner. So
another Ridley Scott movie, of course.
But it's just the characters are really fun, and it's obviously really influential to a genre I very much like.
Oh yeah.
And the effects are fun and cool. It's not very scary in my opinion. There are a couple times that it's scary, but it's still very engaging despite that. Cool. But yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 5.
Very nice. He said not very scary, and I thought of the one cut with like the loud like siren and the alien like reaching out towards you. I was like, it reminds me of Twin Peaks a little bit. I was like, that's funny.
Twin Peaks is scarier than Alien.
Twin Peaks is a little scarier than Alien. I hate to say it.
Alien, for as much as I love it, and as much as I like some of the scares in it, I wouldn't call like the scariest movie.
I don't know. I feel like I've just kind of watched it under like a weird like pretense the two times that I've seen it. I feel like if I watched it like alone, like just in a dark room, I have a feeling it would probably scare me a little more. I've just been kind of chilled out the 2 times I've watched it. So
yeah, but I feel like, especially from other people, like other reviews and stuff that I've read, that's a very normal reaction to watching it.
To Alien.
Yeah, like and I don't know, I mean, we could probably talk about some of why that is, but I know a lot of people like watch this and end up more or less kind of relaxing while watching it. Like it's not a very like, it's one of those movies. It's still really good, and most people agree that it's really good. It's just like it gives an interesting vibe where you can feel like you're just kind of like, yeah, Alien.
It's just kind of, I don't know, it's a very strange movie, and the fact that it's just kind of a smooth ride. Yeah, from the beginning.
It very much feels a lot more like old monster movie type thing, where it's not like being as viscerally scary as a lot of horror movies, even despite like some of the filmmaking seeming like it should be more visceral.
Right. Yeah. No, like there's a lot of handheld, there's a lot of like tight shots,
which always look really good.
Yeah, I was about to say they're all great. But yeah, you're right. No, it's not as like viscerally terrifying as I would think it would be, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes from the way the alien is shot on screen. Like just the way he's used and presented. He's often a very distant force in the movie.
Yeah.
even when he's attacking people, it's very distant feeling. You never get much of an actual like physical imposing presence on top of you.
That's true. There's only really a handful of times that he's like super close to someone. But I mean, you know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. No, I just thought that's just an interesting note. But that was a good segue, Robbie.
Oh yeah.
Let's continue this. Would you have any questions now that we've perfectly segued into our main discussion?
Evidently, I don't. What do you think of the cinematography? Since we brought it up, like how great it was.
I mean, see, because I would say generally that I think the cinematography for this is practically perfect.
I really do think it is.
But at the same time, I am now just thinking about the fact that it's not very like the alien itself is not very scary overall, and I don't know if that's a slight on the movie, you know.
I was about to say, I don't know if the alien has to be scary necessarily.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like
because I think the movie really works like in spite of the fact that I don't really get like. Whoa, you know.
But yeah, like cinematography on the whole, like every other shot looks absolutely gorgeous.
Right.
And a lot of the shots do a really good job of understanding like the framing that's needed for like cinematic language wise. Like there's just a lot of stuff that you just don't see in like a lot of especially newer horror movies or even horror movies that I've seen, like a lot of, especially being that it's sci-fi horror, you've got a lot tighter and like more, I guess, like solid shots, but yet used in a very unique way with their framing to kind of make the space not only this kind of living area that feels very real and like gives you a good sense of geography.
Oh yeah.
But also gives you this kind of claustrophobic, thick, dark, can't really see what's going on kind of feeling.
No, the atmosphere on the ship, I think, is which I think is like one of my favorite things about this movie is just the atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it's just from the cinematography alone. The way they shoot any of the more intense sequences is always like close up in the best way possible, and they always block out the shots so well.
I was about to say like 90% of this I would say are close-ups, but when it's not close-ups it's like really, really well blocked shots.
Exactly, yeah.
Of
and
everyone.
Like when everyone's walking around, they'll do like these big sweeping wide shots and like nice pans, and I love the like when they're running around, like the little push-ins towards stuff. It's just a like surprisingly kinetic movie, without feeling really all that uncontrolled or chaotic. You know, even the handheld stuff down the hallways and everything like that, it fits perfectly in the like visual context.
It feels very intentional.
Yeah.
Which I would say intentionality is something you get from this entire movie. The feeling of it, because especially like the ship is just so cinematically designed. It's like right up there with like the Parasite house for just being like a cinematic space to shoot in.
Right. Now, if I was standing in the hallway of that ship, I'd be like, this looks like a movie.
Or like, you know, like the mother control room.
Exactly.
Like that just looks like a movie.
Again, I kept comparing this to 2001 while I was watching it, and I think in terms of like ship design, it's not that it's like a similar looking ship, but that like the cinematic nature of it.
I was about to say it's right up there in design, as this was it just feels like it was brilliantly designed to be shot.
And it looks phenomenal on a camera, man. Whenever they do like the wide lenses in the hallways and everything, I'm like, looks beautiful.
Yeah, the space of the ship, just you 100% believe that it's a real space the entire time. Like you're just there in the ship.
Right.
And that's so cool. Like, and you don't even see all of the ship by a long shot. You only see like a couple hallways of a couple of the floors. Really, you see even like the most like difference in the ship when they're actually looking for the tiny little alien. But even then, like you just feel like you know the ship.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I think I'll stand by that. This is like one of the best shot sci-fi films I know of.
Yeah.
And
I was about to say, it's like the only thing I can think of that's lit as well as this and set as well as this and shot as well as this is Blade Runner, which is kind of goofy.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong necessarily. I was going to say 2001 just because
2001 is another really
sci-fi film,
sci-fi movie
that it stayed. And that's the thing. It's staged just as well as 2001, which is crazy.
But I like the lighting in Blade Runner and Alien better.
I was about to say 2001 has a much more sanitized
with purpose.
I was about to say, yeah, it's supposed to look that way.
I was about to say Alien and Blade Runner are both very dark, grungy movies.
Yeah, 2001, especially its like spaceship sequence, is meant to look very elegant and like clean.
There's supposed to be in this. There's supposed to be like a lot of dripping stuff,
exactly,
a lot of fog and steam, a lot of shadows, and it's neat.
It's a cool movie, man. Like I said, the cinematography, one of my favorite parts about it. But like speaking on other elements of the ship's atmosphere, like the tactile nature of the sound design is so good in this. Like, I don't know, sci-fi films, I feel like the sound design kind of slips past me a lot of the time.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like sound design stands out more in sci-fi films than
no. I'm not saying like sci-fi itself, like the sound design doesn't stand out as much. If anything, it stands out more. I'm
just saying like noticeably. It's something that I pay attention to. Yeah,
the thing is like some sci-fi films I watch, especially mostly newer ones, I'll just like hear some of the sounds of like the ship or something like that, especially especially Marvel films. My goodness. If you count those as sci-fi, which they are
sci-fi. Comic book sci-fi.
But like the way that the ship sounds in this feels so like nice and real and like tactile. Like that's a good word for it. But again, 2001 comes to mind in terms of like how well defined the sound of everything is.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and the acoustics of everything sound great too.
And it also pulls off a lot of the harsher sounds of like the spaceship and everything without being like, oh, great, this is annoying.
Dude, some old sci-fi movies, when the siren starts going off, I'm like, all right, please stop now.
Well, some even newer sci-fi movies, like another Ridley Scott film, for example, The Martian. The Martian can be really, really annoying with how much beeping and alarms there are.
It's quite funny.
It's like beep, 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 beep. For like 5 minutes.
It's crazy to think that like The Martian is the same director as that.
Digital Ridley, baby. Digital Ridley.
Digital Ridley has his time and place.
Digital Ridley has his time and place, and it's with Matt Damon in The Martian.
Exactly.
Bring him home.
Bring him home. But yeah, no, I just thought it was something to praise because there are so many just like small moments of procedural stuff, and this is very much a procedural movie in a lot of ways. But where the sound design just adds a lot more energy and rhythm to the shots that would otherwise be kind of stagnant.
You know, I wish there was more like alien sound, like from the alien himself.
Yeah,
he's largely silent.
I saw the guy who was credited for like making the alien noises, and apparently he worked on like some whale sounds for a couple other movies before this. And I was like, he's not really like doing that much in this.
Well, I would say beyond just like the kind of rare kind of noise he makes. I'm saying just like
it's the noise he makes.
Just kind of rah. Somebody's like rah. You're like, oh no, the alien.
Oh no, the alien. It's funny.
But I'm just saying like noise around the ship. Like again, it's very odd.
You want the alien like growling at people or something?
I'm only now.
That would be cool,
I'm only now like thinking about this as much as I have because it's so good that you don't even notice this. But it's so odd to have like these scenes where even when like the face hugger has disappeared and they don't know where it is. Like just there's not a lot of like noise kind of getting you on your like on edge of where everything is.
I mean, I found myself a lot more on edge because of the silence, and especially back in like the 70s and everything. That was very rare to see.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I just wish like I guess like from my experience playing like Alien Isolation so recently, which I know is just like completely like outside of
not
things.
The video game.
But Alien Isolation is genuinely a really fantastic horror game, and one of the things of moving around in the physical like space station that you spend most of your time on is there's a lot of atmospheric noise paired with like because there's a lot of like mechanical
like the fans
ship noises.
And everything. Yeah.
You often like can hear the alien coming, but it will often blend with the audio of the ship. And it's very, like, it gets you, again, that kind of video game horror tack of, like, you're now, like, listening to every sound, and it very much enhances the horror, but I feel as like you're not really doing that as much with this. And I know there are different mediums, obviously.
I would tend to, like, disagree that, like, I agree with what you're saying, like, the sound, like, putting you more on edge, but I think this does that, just not in the same way that, like, the video game does.
I don't know. I'm never on edge much with this movie.
The ambience and the silence.
I feel like everything about
that,
this, like the way this movie is presented and framed, gives it some kind of like gives me as a viewer some kind of like omniscient lens where I don't have to worry about anything going on in it.
Yeah, no, I do get that vibe, but, like, I don't know how on earth they could improve the sound design, Mike.
I don't know, I just want some little pitter patter while they're walking through some hallways or something.
Well, I think partially what they did to remedy that, because they chose not to do it for whatever reason, or maybe they just didn't think about it.
I'm sure it was a choice.
Yeah, I was about to say they gave like the proximity sensor and everything.
Yeah,
which kind of serves the same purpose, not quite as like scary, but you know, like I think it works relatively well. There's a lot of rhythmic noises that tend to get faster as the alien comes.
Yeah, and I still don't think that's bad. I don't think it's a bad decision. I'm just saying, like, on top of, like, again, how sparsely the alien is shown because of, you know, it's just a guy in a suit, and you could very much tell if they show him too much, and I think they were trying to avoid that.
Yeah.
He's only, like, sound on screen almost as briefly as he's shown on screen.
That is
he does not have
you don't really hear
presence.
him very often, yeah.
And that's kind of what I mean. So obviously you get the vibe of, like, oh my gosh, where is he? He could be anywhere. He could be right behind me. But he also just does not have the physical presence, because even on an audioscape,
yes,
because he doesn't have as much. Like, take, like, the vent attack scene with Dallas.
I love that scene,
like,
man.
Yes, it's a very scary scene, and, like, the jump scare is good, and
it's
like,
so good.
It's neat and all, but at the same time, I don't know, I just want, like, some more sounds.
Interesting. I don't know, because I don't really think that it's a problem or anything.
It's not like a big problem.
Yeah.
This is me just being, I'm trying to just, like, work through
find something
in my mind of, like, why the alien feels so almost not non-threatening, but, like, so distant from me when I watch the movie.
Which is, I don't know, it's an odd sentiment to me, because, like, the alien, especially with its ability to, like, camouflage itself so well, has always, and it's just, like, sheer physical size, because it keeps shifting around its physical form throughout this movie, and I thought it was quite funny. I don't remember which reviewer said it. I think it might have been Ebert, but he was saying that, like, the final form of the alien in this movie is, like, his least scary form.
It is. But it is really neat how like, just the way, like, with keeping the ship's design in mind, how well he blends into the ship.
Yeah,
like,
I was about to say
being able to, like, turn his head and match the pipes, and
there's so many cool moments like that where I'm just like, oh, that's so cool. And when he's hanging from the chains, like, the first time we see him,
and his tail like, blends it, like again, he's a very cool creature. I like the alien.
Well, I was saying I think he's a bit more physically threatening and everything because of that.
That's something
that I would praise about it.
Like, I love this movie to death, but it's never something, like, nothing I've ever pulled from this has been like, the alien, he's gonna get me. He gets you. And I don't know why that. I think that often, I don't know, like, maybe it has to do, because I was actually wanting to mention this, because it's a very interesting thing, is kind of the atmosphere that this movie has going into it. Because our, like, establishing shot is that pan across the ship with where we track through.
You get a very long sequence of just running through the ship kind of thing.
And it's very interesting to me because the camera and your movements as this first lens seem to, like, interact with stuff as it moves. Like, like, as you go by, some papers flip up and, like, something gets knocked over.
Right. It's such a strange choice, but I think it really establishes the atmosphere of this very well.
Yeah, and it happens again when with the fight with Why did I just lose his name?
I don't remember his name either.
Doesn't it start with like an A?
Oh gosh.
The fight with Ash.
Oh, Ash.
When like the camera moves back to Ash's perspective, like when Ash kind of takes the physical control of the scene and it comes up to him, when you move over,
That's such a good shot.
Like the camera knocks something almost. Like not physically, you're not bumping into something as the lens, but as you move over,
there's
something gets moved by seemingly nothing. And I think that puts you into like a really interesting perspective and relationship with the events going on.
That shot is so good. that whole sequence is incredibly well shot, and that's actually, I think, one of the most unnerving sequences in the whole movie. Oddly enough,
because that's like Ian, that's the name of the actor. Ash is a very interesting character on the whole, and a very interesting presence throughout the movie, and honestly, often scarier in my opinion than the xenomorph is.
Yeah, it's very strange, like just how unnerving pretty much all of his more intense scenes are. But yeah, no, it's fantastic, I think.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because I feel like the Alien series on the whole, or at least from what I've seen, I haven't seen like Aliens or anything like that, but especially like keeping in mind like Prometheus and stuff.
Yeah, Prometheus.
I feel like a lot of like the DNA of this series is the relationship between the xenomorphs and like androids in this, and kind of how they work together. And this is a very interesting relationship of that, because I feel like you're almost paired with almost Ash's perspective of the events going on for a lot of it.
Yeah, no, that's a good note for sure.
Like just kind of this not really there, not in danger as much kind of omniscient lens.
Yeah.
And again, I was kind of thinking of like pairing the fact that when Ash takes back the perspective, because whenever it's Ripley's perspective, it's very handheld, it does
have a bit more of a tactile feel.
It's very close up. But whenever Ash takes the perspective, it widens up.
The very elegant, slow dollies and everything.
And you also only have that interaction with the actual stuff on screen when Ash has the perspective. So it almost makes me feel like when you first get into the movie, you're introduced to the world kind of from Ash's perspective.
I mean, Ash wouldn't be in he wouldn't be frozen.
I mean, yeah, it's again like Prometheus.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, that's an interesting note. Never thought of it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's interesting because I've always seen Ash as kind of, I mean, very directly the instrument of capitalism in this movie, which capitalism is very much a big theme in Alien. Like literally the first line of the movie, they're talking about like how much they're getting paid.
It's funny, like the two themes of this movie are like capitalism and sexual assault, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a fairly grim look at capitalism. And I mean, the Alien, a lot of people I know seem to think that it's like kind of this cold, uncaring figure, which I mean, obviously it is. But that's not what I was saying. But like it's meant to represent kind of the cold hand of capitalism.
He's the perfect organism, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's very interesting. I don't know, because again, you have like the sexual assault themes, which are very much all over this movie.
Yeah.
And very, very prevalently shown.
Yeah, very, very integral to the DNA of even the visuals of what they were going for on a lot of the design work, on top of Ash as a character in general.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was about to say, you can even see like he's constantly talked down to by Ripley up into the point where he essentially, in the only way an android can, essentially assaults her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In a very disturbing scene.
I was about to say, anytime this movie like leans into its like sexual stuff at all, it's very unnerving to me anyway.
Which I mean is the point.
Yeah, that's the
again,
idea.
like the entire design of the face hugger is supposed to is supposed to get that imagery into your mind.
I mean, basically, anytime the xenomorph is on screen in any form, it's meant to be like that.
Yeah, which is very interesting. It's its relationship to its themes about capitalism, also playing into its themes about kind of
like invasion and assault and like assimilation of people.
and just the way Ripley's treated in general as the only, like, well, not the only. I always forget about what's her face as the
she's not the only
as one of the only women on the crew. The other lady, I don't remember her name. She just doesn't do much.
I was about to say, the other lady is kind of the worst.
She's kind of funny sometimes. She complains, but she really doesn't do much,
which is a shame.
But yeah, it's just very interesting the way the film goes about dealing with all of that thematically.
Yeah. No, that's very cool.
And I was about to say, and I think tying into a lot of the framing that you go into it, like I was talking about earlier, it just gives you a very interesting perspective to the events going on.
Yeah. Man, you brought up Ash, and now I'm like, man, that's such like a cool like thing to include in this movie,
right? Like with the lens of again, we watching Prometheus.
I watched Prometheus before I watched this, actually, which is interesting.
It feels like natural. You're like, oh yeah, have like but like think about the initial.
Yeah,
thing
this
of
is like the first. This is the first Alien movie.
To decide to have like a secret android as one of the crew members.
So cool, man.
And like have all like, I don't know. That's such a neat idea to put into a sci-fi.
It's still crazy to me that he has like milk blood.
Right. Again,
that has to have some significance.
It adds. Well, no, remember the cinematic meaning of milk.
The cinematic significance of milk.
It's never good. Is the moral of the story.
Never a good
if a character is drinking milk on screen in a movie,
oh gosh,
probably a bad sign. And Ash is the only one seen doing it, and then his blood is essentially like milk,
like a milk-like substance, which is very, I don't know. There's just so many cool like aesthetic and thematic choices that really give this like a very iconic feel. Which, I mean, obviously, it's a very iconic movie in today's like landscape of cinema.
Very, very influential.
I mean, it was it into the like Library of Congress's like film registry and everything. Like, obviously,
along with the Shrek.
I mean, both very influential movies.
Anytime I hear people mention like the Library of Congress like preservation collection, I think of Shrek.
It's quite funny.
Gotta preserve Shrek for future generations. But no, this is such a, like, I don't know, like such a just endearing film. Like, I just love this film.
It feels almost like I would have such a hard time trying to pin down any one hard criticism of this movie because it's technically so well constructed. Like, every like facet of filmmaking, it seems like it was done in perfect collaboration.
Exactly.
Like the performances, the sound design, the cinematography, lighting,
the score, the direction.
It all feels like it's working so well together that like it's so hard to come up with any.
It's just like a perfect machine.
Yeah, it's a perfect machine. Exactly. Yeah,
the perfect organism, Ravi.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, it's just it's like a symphony of like cinematic beauty. It's amazing to witness.
It really is impressive, and I think that's often why people, even more so than anything else, I think that's often why people kind of get this relaxed vibe while watching it, because it's just such a impressive film to watch do its thing.
Yeah, it's just it's like you said, it's like amazingly. It's like a perfect machine of like just amazingly well-crafted movie.
Which is interesting because for the podcast, one thing that we were curious, I have this movie on Blu-ray. I have Alien on Blu-ray, and on this Blu-ray, it came with the director's cut because every Ridley Scott movie in the world has a director's cut.
Scott.
Riddler. Finally, the Riddler Scott.
Riddler Scott. Batman 3. Here we go.
But every like Ridley Scott movie in the world has a director's cut.
Yeah.
And I was pretty sure beforehand that I had read before that Ridley Scott wasn't the biggest fan of this director's cut. Yeah. And I found out later that he wasn't, and it was mostly just like a marketing thing since it was the 25-year anniversary when they did this. And like I think it was all the worse for it. Because, like, literally what they do is they add, like, in, like, 2 shots and, like, a couple things here and there.
There's one scene which I didn't realize. I was reading up on, like, the different cuts. I didn't realize that the, like, morphing scene near the end, like, while Ripley is escaping.
See, it's very confusing.
Like, the scene where the other crewmates are, like, slowly being morphed into, like, eggs and everything. I didn't realize that wasn't in the original cut, because I'd only seen it one time before this. And they originally had cut it out to, like, you know, keep the ending a little more, like, fast pace and high stakes, you know.
I was about to say that's one of the coolest additions.
I was about to say if I were to keep anything from the director's cut, it would be that scene, because I love that scene.
But like everything else is very minor. And then the other thing that they did with it was that they cut down a couple seconds on a lot of scenes, which really doesn't do anything good. Like, it's kind of bad.
They cut a lot of they undercut a lot of the, like, amazing like shot to shot rhythm that this movie has in its original theatrical cut.
Dude, they cut down the cat shot. I was so upset about this.
That is one of the coolest
I love
shots
that shot.
Movie,
so I think it's like the first death outside of, I guess. No, yeah, because it's even before Dallas. So it is. It's the first death of the movie.
It's the first time we, like, see the xenomorph like kill somebody.
Yeah, and like we get
I mean, other than, like, the, you know, face hugger and
because technically the first death is the chest burster, but whatever. Anyway, but it is like the first death via xenomorph, and we get this shot of, like, this cool, like, flashing light on the cat's face as it's, like, really close up on the cat's face as he's, like, looking on.
It's a reaction shot.
It's a really cool reaction shot given, like, what just happened. Like, it's just a cool moment in the movie, and it's like a good, like, second shorter in the director's cut, and it goes by so fast. And I was like, no.
Yeah, no, the director's cut, I would not recommend it. I would watch, like, the scene with everyone, like, slowly morphing into, like, xenomorph eggs near the end. You could probably find it on YouTube or something, I'm sure. Apparently it was originally included as, like, a bonus feature, just that scene alone on the Laserdisc release back when this came out on Laserdisc. And then they put it in the director's cut for the 2003 release, which is, I mean, it's a cool scene.
The little help me or kill me from Dallas.
Dude, that's a great moment. I'm a little sad that it's not in theatrical, but I do understand why they cut it.
Yeah. I was about to say the theatrical is very tight, and it's tight without
very lean movie.
It's tight while also having, you know, good shot pacing and not needing to cut down on its shot.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was reading up on this movie, and originally the, like, initial cut, which, you know, initial cuts are always longer, but it was originally like a 3-hour long movie. And they ended up trimming it down to just under 2 hours, which I'm just surprised at how much silence and, like, stillness you still get in the theatrical cut, despite how short it is.
I was about to say most it almost makes me wish that we could get more, because I just love being on this ship so much.
Micah just wants, like, the ship ambience.
I'll take, like, a 3-hour cut of this movie.
That would be so cool, actually, like, getting, like, a ship ambience compilation. We should do that.
But no, I mean, Ridley Scott's a good enough director and creator to know what needs to get cut down.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a great director.
And to know, and I mean, I think the theatrical cut of Alien is pretty much perfect.
It is. It's pretty much a perfect movie.
And he even commented that he thinks, like, after the director's cut came out, he commented that he thought the theatrical was pretty perfect. So the director's cut was kind of stupid. Unlike a lot of movies, like we talked about Legend on the podcast before, he couldn't put a lot of the stuff he wanted to in the theatrical cut of Legend.
The director's cut is leagues
so the director's cut actually has, like, a lot to stuff he wanted to put into it, and it's a lot better than the theatrical.
It's so much better.
But this is not that case. I was about to say the only thing that really gets cut down is some of the gore, which makes me sad, because it was gonna get an X rating if they kept, like, there was apparently originally, like, the original take of the chest burster scene had a lot more blood blood.
It's still
and,
quite a bit of blood, man.
And there was just like it was
yeah.
pushing X
I know.
for gore.
I know.
So like there was just a lot more gore and blood, and I would have liked that. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
It always makes me sad when movies get cut down like for violence.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is still such like a gross, like off-putting and still like relatively bloody movie.
Yeah.
And the fact that it could have been more bloody is like an appealing idea, but it would have definitely given it a different vibe.
Well, it makes me think about, again, how I feel towards like the xenomorph and how I feel like he doesn't have as much of an imposing presence. I feel like maybe if they were allowed to show a bit more gore, because they weren't even allowed to show as much gore as we can now by rating standards.
Yeah, I was about to say I've seen way more blood in like horror movies now. So I don't think we're in danger of
even
pushing
like
X.
Alien Covenant. I don't know if you've seen the chest burster scene from
Alien Covenant looks crazy.
But it is very gory.
Yeah.
Like very, very gory. But I would have just loved to see a bit more like just actual on-screen violence from the xenomorph itself.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, honestly, like I can't fault the movie too
No, and I mean you can't fault the movie. Again, I think the theatrical cut of this is pretty darn. I'm literally just being like, oh, these are things that I would, and you know,
your personal preference,
and like a side cut I would love to see.
Dude, like there's so many, like you kept mentioning how like sparse the xenomorph is in this, but like anytime it is there, like you get to see like the copious amounts of like slime, and then like you get to see the close up on the teeth.
Little teeth.
I love the shiny teeth.
His little inner jaw.
Yeah,
love
like that, dude. The little tiny chest bursting xenomorph with the shiny teeth. I love his little jaw movement. Like, there's so many like just amazingly awesome moments with the xenomorph in this that I can't even be mad that he's not in it that much, because when he is there,
no, I
like
mean again, this is again, I think this is like a perfect movie. I'm literally just saying like in an alternate cut made just for me. I would love to see more.
Okay, question, Micah.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite scene in this movie? Because I think I do.
Do I have a favorite scene?
It's very hard to pick because it's another one of those like procedural thrillers where like it kind of goes.
Say horror. I mean, not a thriller.
Well, it's a horror. I mean,
there's a difference.
There is a difference.
Saying procedural thriller gives a different meaning than horror.
That's true. It's a procedural horror film. There you go.
Man, I don't know.
Because
it's really hard.
I really love, I don't know if I would say like my definitive favorite scene, but I really love the like final scene where Ripley's about to go into cryo sleep or whatever it is. I don't know if they call it that in this.
I mean, it's cryo sleep.
Yeah. And then like that whole sequence with like the alien on the final like escape pod and everything, I love that sequence really good. So much.
That's some of the best, most physically imposing.
I was about to say that's like the scariest it is in the whole movie for me, with like the flashing lights and like
shutter speed. Right?
I was about to say that shutter speed change is so good, and there's like a bunch of fog, and you get to see the xenomorph really in like all of its glory.
But it does lead up to the xenomorph looking his lamest when he gets blasted out of the ship.
Funny.
And it just looks like a man.
I find that so funny. Like I don't know if it's even a bad thing.
He gets blasted out of the ship, and he's supposed to be like flung out, so he's like fully like in just a normal guy position, whereas normally he's like all crouched up, so he looks a little bit more alien-y.
Yeah, I know that shot. Like I never quite know if I should like laugh at it, but I do laugh.
I laugh at that shot. It's a funny shot. I would say honestly one of my favorite scenes, and this is going to be kind of weird because I feel like it's kind of out of nowhere, is the scene when they're looking for the face hugger when he's disappeared. Something about the way that scene is shot and everything. I love that scene.
Yeah.
And it's just a random scene. Like it's no better.
There's a bunch. Like there's a dozen other like it.
I was about to say it's no better than like any other scene in the movie. I think they're all like fantastic. Yeah. But there's something about that scene that's always stood out to me, just like from an atmospheric and like horror level. I think that's one of the most into like the scenes that I am when it comes to horror.
Yeah.
I just love that establishing shot from like the floor of the room panning along.
There's that entire scene, like that entire scene is like so phenomenally well shot.
I was about to say almost anything with the face hugger I really like.
Yeah.
Like just the entire atmosphere around the face hugger is very cool.
Yeah. No, I mean it's one of the most like immediately like personally imposing forms of the xenomorph that there is in this. So like it makes sense it would be a bit more like
we need more of the little guy.
More of the little chest
burster.
I did want the little chest burster guy to be on like running around, like skittering around the ship.
You need like a little like Scooby-Doo run sound effect for him. That's how I feel like.
Dude, that shot of him running off of the table is like one of the funniest things.
He's just a little
like
guy.
He's like pushing the plates and like cans out of his way.
Right.
It's so funny. I love this movie so much.
It's such a cool movie, but yeah. Like again, and that's just like a lot of the simple moments end up being a lot of my favorites from this movie.
It's a very meditative movie.
I was about to say establishing shot, a lot of the static shots of just different things around the ship and different pans around are just often my favorite parts of the movie. Despite me also really loving like the characters and stuff, which we haven't talked about them at all. I was gonna mention like the rest of the cast.
Yeah, no, I mean like. I don't remember. It might have been Ebert's review again, where he was talking about how the crew is just made up of like entirely working class people.
Yeah.
Except for like, of course,
except for Ash.
the android. Yeah, Ash. And it's a really cool like way to help your audience relate to the characters a lot more. Which I mean, Ridley Scott's done this before. Like something like The Martian does this too.
Ridley Scott's done this before.
Well,
it's nothing new from Ridley.
Nothing new from Ridley Scott, the director.
No, I get what you're saying though, because I mean, like a lot of the characters, and I mean, even though you have like the whole, I think the whole mechanics asking for money, like the more money is more just to add to the capitalism theme, not really to add like any divide between the crew, because they never really have that divide. They have quite a bit, especially between them and like Ripley, even though they mess with each other. Like they have a very good sense of camaraderie, because none of them, like even though there's like a captain of the ship, it's not like a lot of other sci-fis where you see where it's like, oh, the captain.
It's not like Star Trek over here.
Yes, captain, what are we doing, captain?
Dude.
They're all, it's like a freight ship. You know, they're a cargo ship. They're getting the job done. The job done. They're on their crew. They're working together. They weren't supposed to stop yet. Like it just gives that vibe for everybody again, except for Ash, who works directly for the company and like has this guise of superiority above everyone else.
You know, it's interesting. We did an episode on Sunshine a little while ago, and to anyone who actually watched Sunshine, you might remember like. The Sunshine's crew having a very similar like sense of camaraderie, but in that case like it was uniting to like save the world or whatever.
Well,
like a very different set of circumstances, but I just thought it worth mentioning that Sunshine has a very like similar crew dynamic to this.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because the whole thing and the whole reason Sunshine has such a strong crew dynamic is because they have to breaking it up is the tension of
exactly. Yeah, I was about to say
Sunshine.
Most of the stakes
psychological
of
breaks of the characters is the tension of Sunshine,
which is great. Great movie. You can go watch it.
whereas this movie is like literally it's just like the crew.
Yeah, I was about to say all of the like drama of this movie is like the characters being like lorded over by some other more powerful force.
Or by Ash.
Well, yeah. But it's very interesting. I don't know. I really like the capitalism stuff in this.
Yeah. Ash is one of my favorite like writing things in this. He's a very creepy presence.
Oh my gosh.
And like I love just a lot of the scene. Like anytime him and Ripley are interacting before, like especially the one scene where they essentially kill him, is very interesting. Like the dialogue choices and the framing choices are always very interesting because it's like always like Ripley essentially taking the upper hand cinematically over him.
Yeah, it's great. I don't know. There's so many just like like you said, so many great, like, just small things.
Yeah, like everything is just good about that.
That's what I was saying. Like, it's just, even if you don't like get scared by it, or if you don't like love horror sci-fi, or you're not an alien guy,
you got like the fun characters.
You have to,
cool
you just have to admire how well everything in this movie gels. Like, so there's so many like great creative forces on it that just collaborated so perfectly on this,
right? Like, you get like funny lines from characters, enjoyable moments.
The ensemble is so good.
Cool atmosphere, great physicality, cool locations, an interesting mystery. Like, everything about this is it's a perfect film. What can I say?
I honestly, yeah, if someone asked me like what's the perfect sci-fi film, I would honestly probably say like one of the Blade Runner films, or Alien, or 2001. That's like my lineup, right?
Yeah, I would say even, because obviously I think Blade Runner is messier than this, but even Blade Runner 2049.
I was thinking 2049.
Even 2049 I would call messier than this.
It is. It's a bit more of a sprawling kind of weird movie.
I was about to say, I'm not as 100% on the 2049 train as everyone else. It's still like it's still a masterpiece. So much, yeah. I still gave it 5 stars, but like I know some people who are like crazy about 2049.
Yeah, which I'm not all that. I haven't even watched it twice yet. But
I think I've watched it like 3 times now.
But it is a phenomenal film.
It's good. It's very good. Anyway, that's Alien. I don't really have any like other thoughts on Alien.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much else to say about it. You could go through this like scene by scene and just praise all of the like wonderful little beats that you find.
We've covered a lot of like, just everything about it gels so well.
Yeah.
And there are so many different enjoyable things to take from each different scene and location. Even the alien ship is, we didn't even talk
about like the planet and everything.
Yeah, I was about to say the planet
amazing.
And the alien ship are just so much fun to be on.
Yeah.
And the way they're shot and everything is really, really neat.
Amazing, yeah.
And like somehow the alien ship even more fits the design, like for the alien, like for the xenomorph to blend in. Even though he's not there yet, like just like the feeling of like this is like the xenomorph's ship,
right?
Essentially comes through so much from the way it's designed.
I found out they shot the egg sequence after production had already wrapped. Like they went back and shot that, and I'm like, that's like one of the coolest
like egg sequence. Yeah,
it's one of the most like defining moments of like the xenomorph stuff in this. Like the egg scene is so good.
Got organic life ready.
Yeah. But dude, man, it's such a good movie.
Yeah, love this movie.
Undeniably a fantastic film. Like, I don't know how you couldn't love it.
And they got a little cat, which for some reason I find it so funny that just Ripley and the cat survive. They're the only two. Yeah, because I honestly, the first time I watched this movie, I thought the cat was gonna die like so fast, like 5 different times.
I mean, that's very much a trope of horror.
Exactly.
Like, leading back even before this.
A trope of movies in general is to just kill off cats, be mean to cats.
Yeah.
Cats are not treated well in cinema.
Well, I mean, that's a historical thing too. But yeah.
But the fact that not only is Jones a cool cat, but he survives the whole film, I think is neat.
It's still crazy that he survived getting like probably punted across the ship by the xenomorph,
right,
inside his little box.
Not only that, like even Ripley, when she's like running, she's being so rough with the little carrier. He said, "I'm like, oh no."
Right? No, like I knew that he wasn't in there when they were shooting it, obviously, but like I was like, oh no, he's getting banged around pretty good.
But again, it still leads to one of my favorite moments when in like the middle of the very intense climax, Ripley is going pss, 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 pss.
It's quite good.
And then he shows up too. He comes to the pss, pss, ing.
It's a certified way to attract a cat if you have lost a cat.
It's true. Dude, I did that to Haley's cat the other day. She's like, "Stop ing my cat," and I'm like, "No, I must summon him."
There's a really funny beat that I think just kind of like went by me the first time I watched this, but when they're initially looking for the cat, like after it runs off, when they're looking for the little tiny chest burster, like when he starts meowing to try and find the cat and meows back, right. I'm like, that's such a funny beat.
Right, it's like because he clearly so like does not think like he does not
Right.
sound like he thinks it's gonna work. He's like meow, and then Jones is like meow back.
That's a great beat. I love it. Yeah.
But yeah, fantastic movie.
It's Alien.
It's Alien.
Like, if you're old enough to watch Alien and you haven't seen Alien,
Go watch it.
why haven't you seen Alien?
Why haven't you seen it? It's a classic.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like 70s horror, which unfortunately a lot of people don't like 70s horror.
70s horror,
Which is a
rips
shame.
by all
Because it's so cool because it's literally the defining decade for horror was
Right.
the 70s.
because wasn't Texas Chainsaw like
Texas
early
Chainsaw
70s?
was 70s,
Or
yeah.
mid 70s? Yeah, no.
No, I mean
there's
the
so
70s
many-
was the defining decade for, I mean, obviously there are a lot of other things. I mean, you can often point to the 80s for like pulpy horror.
Yeah,
as where
that's the rise of like real like blockbuster franchise horror.
but
and
70s
stuff, like
was
80s
where
and
was
90s.
where modern horror was born, because
Absolutely.
that was the first decade where they were even like allowed to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. After the MPAA, which ugh,
Ugh.
ugh,
Ugh.
ugh,
Ugh.
boo.
Boo. MPA.
But yeah, after like their like code and everything got lifted, like they were actually able to do stuff in their movies again. And we got Aliens.
Yeah, we got Alien.
We got Alien. I can't complain.
I was about to say, here, like, talk about something.
Is Alien better than Legend? Probably, but
Yeah.
it makes me sad to say
Yes, it is. Are you kidding?
so. Other Ridley Scott. I've seen Blade Runner. That's a pretty good movie.
Wow. You're doing such a good job. I was about to say, because in the 70s, I was pulling this up because I was about to say, in the 70s, we got Alien, Jaws, Halloween,
my gosh, Jaws.
The Exorcist, Carrie, Suspiria, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Like those, like even Black
That alone,
Christmas,
man.
Dawn of the Dead, Deep Red, like The Hills Have Eyes, Wicker Man, House, Eraserhead.
Dude, Wicker Man, like all of these are very influential to like just modern horror in
I was
general.
about to say, these are like
especially something like Halloween and
or The Exorcist. Yeah. The Exorcist was like, there was nothing like The Exorcist before it existed.
which is crazy.
And that movie defined an entire subgenre of horror. That's honestly one of the strongest subgenres of horror like today. in
Oh
terms
yeah,
of
it's still
what's
going like
getting
possession
made.
horror and everything.
Yeah.
That's still very much going strong. Got the Evil Dead Rises later this year.
Where it was like Evil Dead Rises around my birthday. Very exciting.
I'm pumped, man. That looks cool.
But I was about to say, you literally have like almost every facet of modern day horror.
yeah, I mean, you got like so many genre defining horror movies in the
defined
70s.
in the 70s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like your college slashers with like Halloween, your possession movies, your monster movies, your
slashers. Yeah.
your more like Carrie style. I don't know what to describe.
I don't. Yeah, I was about to say I don't know if there's a
Stephen
good-
King.
I don't know if there's a good term for like a Carrie subgenre.
Suspiria, Texas Chainsaw, man. Texas Chainsaw. What a movie, man.
That's a great film. I was actually reading. I don't remember what. It might have been Ridley Scott who said it. But he wanted. Someone was saying they wanted Alien to be like Texas Chainsaw in space, like the Texas Chainsaw of sci-fi movies. I'm like, that's pretty good.
You know, and even then it does. There's something so special about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, I can't think
Right.
of another film that has the visceral atmosphere that Texas Chainsaw Massacre has.
It's a very bizarre movie in a lot of ways.
It is.
but-
It's goofy and it like attacks your senses and is like over the top. And
Man, we should do an episode on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's a good movie.
that's a cool movie. I have that movie. I wanted that movie on Blu-ray. I almost bought the Steelbook when we were at the CD store.
That's a cool steel book for it. Yeah.
But I have it on DVD. So
But yeah.
it's a neat movie.
But yeah, Alien.
Alien.
We talked about Alien.
There we go.
It's a cool movie.
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
Sure.
Easily
even,
5.
Even the director's cut, I would still probably give a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, no, I
It
wouldn't.
doesn't
really
hurt.
bump
It doesn't
down.
hurt it enough to drop it down a rating.
Yeah, and you get the egg scene at near the end where they start morphing around.
But yeah, that was Alien.
That's Alien.
Now we're gonna move into our what we watched segment.
Let's do it.
right, so for those of you who do not know or are new to the podcast or whatever, or just don't like listening to us this much that you've never made it this far, the What We Watched segment is a little segment we do in the end where we talk about all the other movies we've watched since our last episode, give a brief little review and rating of them, and just, talk about good movies.
I was about to say, maybe you'll find something that you haven't seen yet that you want
and apparently this is a fan favorite segment, so...
The one fan.
Shout out to Giler. Anyway,
what did you watch, Mike?
So I did not watch as much this week.
Right.
Usually going into this, you can
week.
kind of expect us to have a lot in between episodes. Especially last week, I had so many films. But this week I only watched 5 things. And starting on the 16th, because we were going from the 14th, but I didn't watch anything on the anything on the 14th or the 15th,
which is crazy.
Which is very unusual to not watch a movie for 2 days for me.
Right.
But on the 16th, I watched Black Klansman. Spike Lee.
Anyone who's keeping up with modern films,
John David Washington
knows what Black Klansman is, hopefully.
Very interesting film. My second Spike Lee movie. And it's odd. I know a lot of people who gave complaints towards the direction, and honestly, surprisingly enough, for as strong as the direction is and Do the Right Thing, the only other film I've seen from him, I would say the direction is probably one of the weirdest things going on in this. Not everything gels about this movie, but at the same time, it's really, really fun. There's a lot of really good ideas. The characters are really interesting.
It's got Adam Driver and John David Washington. It has to be at least a little bit.
They're
fun.
Such fun leads. I love the two of them.
Right.
And dude, I don't know what it is about John David Washington's performance in this, but he's got this accent, and I don't know how to describe his accent, but his accent is really funny in this. They even they even do a lot of comedic stuff because of his accent that he's doing. Because they have a scene where Adam Driver has to try and do his voice, and it's really funny. But this is just an interesting movie because it's very tonally goofy, but at the same time, it doesn't really give weight to the stuff I feel like it needs to, because obviously it's a pretty dark overall story.
I was about to say, it's called Black Klansman. It doesn't sound like a goofy, fun ride.
It's fun. Whatever. They go for a more comedic tone with it, which I think is good. I think that works well. But at the same time, a lot of the actual narrative tension doesn't work. A lot of the narrative, because of that, and because of the editing and direction they took with it, feels kind of... you're not doing much for a lot of the runtime of the movie, because there's not really any tension for the entire big thing, because essentially from a premise standpoint it's a crime thriller. It's a comedy crime thriller, but it's a crime thriller, and there should be some tension to that, so it's just odd, and some of the editing is actively kind of bad.
That really is a shame. I hate to see that for especially a director as prestigious and big as Spike Lee is. Having just a bad edit for your movie is kind of a sucky thing to happen.
But I really love pretty much all the characters. It's just a really fun movie to be in, and I like what it's going for, especially thematically with movies, and also the little end sequence where they use real life footage is sad and depressing, and I cried.
Dude, I hate when movies do that, where it's based on a true story and then they intercut real footage at the end. I'm like, this is so crushing. Why would they do that?
it's not even that, because it is based on a real story, but the footage they use is recent footage, from stuff from Trump era stuff.
Goodness, man.
Then it's even more depressing. But anyway, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5.
I'm looking forward to it. I've owned the Blu-ray for Black Klansman for a long, long time, and I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, it's very fun. I'm hoping maybe it'll on a rewatch I'll be oh, these problems aren't as standout.
Yeah.
Anyway, what did we watch next, Rebby? What did we do?
Next up, we watched a little film called Titanic.
We went out to the theaters.
You might have heard of it.
Nobody's heard of Titanic.
We went out to the theater and we watched it in extreme 3D, which is pretty cool.
IMAX.
I have to say.
3D.
Well, it's not IMAX.
It is IMAX.
It's not true IMAX.
It's IMAX.
No, the screen isn't tall enough.
But it's IMAX.
It's not IMAX.
It's an IMAX projector.
IMAX is a very specific brand of projector and screen
But it's
size.
an IMAX projector.
Yeah, but our screen wasn't right for it. It actually made me kind of upset because like the image was kind of bleeding off the edge for for the whole movie.
Well, listen, this theater is a heck of a lot cheaper
It
than
is.
going to an
It's
AMC with, quote, true IMAX.
very
They had
much
an
a local
IMAX
change.
They had an IMAX projector.
It's an IMAX projector, not IMAX, but it's not IMAX.
It is
that
IMAX.
is a copyrighted name, Micah.
But if it has an IMAX
It's
projector,
extreme.
to me it is IMAX.
It is extreme viewing at NCG theaters. Like, it is not IMAX.
Anyway, we watched Titanic 3D.
We watched Titanic in 3D extreme.
Which is crazy. We could do a whole episode. I almost actually suggested doing an episode on Titanic.
Titanic, so good.
Because like,
this is our first time seeing it.
There's a lot to talk about here, especially being that like the 3D remaster. I hate 3D movies typically, except for in any James Cameron
Apparently
movie
James
I've
Cameron
seen
can do
use
it.
3D because he uses it in such a smart way. I saw somebody point out that pretty much the 3D in this is literally pretty much like only used for like depth of focus. Like nothing's ever really popping out of the screen at you. Mm-hmm. It's all just depth stuff.
I was about to say it's not gimmicky. It's just meant to like give the ship and like the environments more physical presence.
And it works even more smoothly than watching like The Way of Water in 3D.
Yeah.
There's some things in The Way of Water that still I'm like, whoa, yeah, we're watching a 3D cut of this.
Way of Water is very interesting because it's visually quite a bit different than Titanic is. Titanic's a much more like conventionally shot movie.
For Titanic being such a conventionally shot movie, it's really impressive to get 3D to work as to be
the post conversion looks great on this.
To be and to be such an immersive experience with that. Like I was just so engaged with this movie. I loved it. It did not feel like 3 hours.
Yeah, no, I mean if you liked Titanic, and I mean I would even say if you didn't like Titanic, I would go and try and catch it in 3D if it's still in theaters because it looks phenomenal, man.
But yeah, I think the movie on a whole, even though it has some sloppy things here and there and is very popcorny overall,
it's like the most popcorn movie I've seen in a while.
I think it's practically perfect. Like
it really
not even despite that, but often because of that. Like it balances its tones so well. It's paced really well. The performances, even though like even Kate Winslet's performance is so almost bad in points, like almost bad.
No,
it's good, but it's almost bad.
I mean, it could very easily become bad, like if they lost track of like what they should be doing with the movie.
But like it's just like it's such a good movie, and like the actual like Titanic stuff is really exciting and engaging and scary.
It's crazy,
and like
man.
Visually impressive.
Yeah, like the cinematography in this movie, man.
And honestly, goofily enough, it's very similar to Alien in my mind in terms of just how much the location feels like a real space. Mm-hmm. Like I just feel like that's the Titanic. Like I know,
Titanic.
Even though again, like Alien, they don't show you all of it. I feel like like I know the ship of the Titanic. Like I know where everything is. And they do such a great job, even with the framing devices of this movie, to just get you into everything so smoothly and to be really appealing while also being really good.
Yeah, man. Like I think this is like one of the most like perfect blockbusters that I've ever seen.
Which, lo and behold, it's one of the most money-making blockbusters. Gas.
Yeah. No, I mean like Titanic, I think it's pretty much like the perfect blockbuster. Like it's got literally everything you could want out of its premise and like its performances and like all of its technical aspects. It's just a staggeringly well-made movie.
But yeah, I give it a 5 out of 5.
I also gave it a 5 out of 5.
It was
man.
crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Titanic, cool movie.
On the 17th, I watched Little Fugitive. A 50s... What are they called? Drama, I guess?
The 1950s, baby.
It's a very interesting film.
Golly
gee. Because it's honestly like no other 50s movie I've ever seen. It's very... Because like during that time, still most of the time what was getting made were very like classical movies.
That is true.
Even carrying on to the 60s and everything, you didn't get very many movies that have like this vibe. In fact, you don't get very many movies in general that feel like this, because this feels like one step away from a documentary.
Nice. That can be a really nice thing to like find in a movie.
And it's just like this little atmospheric like neo-realism Coney Island movie about this little guy just going around, living out. He thinks, like, the entire plot of the movie just kind of tells you exactly what kind of thing you're getting into, because they trick him to make his little brother think that he killed him, and then in doing that he runs away and then goes to Coney Island and just has fun. Like, he just enjoys his time. He lives out because his brother wanted to go to Coney Island, but he couldn't because he had to watch his little brother, and then his little brother ends up going to Coney Island and just, like, enjoying life.
Wow.
And it's just like, it's a very much just like you're with this little kid just kind of hanging out, in a very, like, apparently very accurate 50s portrayal of Coney Island, just to a very, like, to almost, again, like almost a documentary level of just, you're just watching stuff. It's very neat.
Pretty cool.
It's not my favorite thing in the world, and it's still, I think, could use some better pacing. It's kind of slow and a little boring for an 80-minute runtime, which was sad. I was going to say,
it's only 80 minutes long.
But it's still a very neat film. I gave it a 3.5.
Very nice. On the 17th, I watched a little film called Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, directed by Park Chan-wook. And it was a very good movie. Go figure. I had only seen, like, Decision to Leave and his short film Judgment. But Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, very good thriller. Loved the performances, loved the visuals, obviously. He just knows how to block a movie, man. Like, there's a lot of, like, there's, like, so many scenes in this that have, like, 4 or 5 people, like, on screen at the same time, and it's so seamless. It's crazy. But yeah, no, it's a brutal and beautiful thriller, and I really loved it. So yeah, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Then
what did you watch?
On the 19th, I watched Without a Paddle.
Without a Paddle.
Classic 2000.
I don't know about classic. Maybe cult
2000s comedy.
Not even cult classic.
By Stephen Brill, the man who brought you Movie 43.
Not Little Nicky.
Hubie Halloween. Little Nicky.
Not Little Nicky.
Mr. Deeds and The Do-Over. This guy, and Heavyweights. This guy is just pulling in the movies.
That's a lineup of films, man. I can't argue with that.
I was over at my girlfriend's house, and she really likes this movie, and she really likes Matthew Lillard, and I really like Matthew Lillard, and I really like Seth Green.
Who doesn't, you know?
So I was like, yeah, I did want to watch this.
Great performers.
But it's so stupid, and it's like painfully 2004 stupid. It like a lot of the comedy is like very painfully low-hanging 2004 fruit. Like a very like women and stuff like that.
I was about to say Mean Girls was 2004, Micah. Better tread lightly.
Yeah, well, Mean Girls is like one of the only 2000s comedy that I've seen pull off that kind of comedy.
That's true.
And like, it's whatever. It's still pretty funny, but there's a lot of like there's like 90% like no homo jokes and like look, a hairy woman kind of thing, and like the backwards redneck hunters, and like that's the kind of comedy you get in this movie. There's a lot of poop jokes.
I heard Matthew Lillard and Seth Green in a comedy together, and I got so pumped. But now that you're saying this,
I was about to say it's like they're still fun, right? And it's still a fun movie. I gave it a like, but at the same time, it's just all of like a lot of the things that I don't like.
The worst tendencies.
I was about to say a lot of the things that are just kind of sucky about 2000s comedies are present in this.
Darn, man.
So that kind of was sad to me, because it could have been so much more fun if they would have just been like a little bit more inventive with their comedy.
Man. That's a shame. I was kind of looking forward to it.
No, I mean,
I still want to see it.
It's still goofy and stupid, and like it's exactly what you would expect from a movie starring Matthew Lillard, Seth Green, and Dax Shepard, directed by Stephen Brill.
Yeah.
In 2004. But yeah, it was weird. I gave it a 2.5.
Very nice. Very nice. And then after that, on the 20th, we sat down and we watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
The 4K.
The 4K. I bought a 4K disc and we watched it.
Had to cart my PS5 all the way down to his room to put it.
We can't all buy PS5s.
We could all buy PS5s.
But yeah, Close Encounters. This was my first time rewatching it.
This was my first time watching it. That's a very confusing way to say that. You could have just said this is my second time watching it.
Well, suppose that would have been a little less confusing, but it was my first time rewatching it.
It's your second time watching it. It was my first time watching it. I was very excited. I like Spielberg, but at the same time, I was not as, like, I don't know, there was something about it that I almost was kind of nervous that it was just going to be a little boring from some of the stuff I had seen from it.
Understandably, yeah. It's kind of it's a very hard movie to, like, market to anyone, really.
And I was about to say, it's very, very cool. It's a cool movie beyond anything else.
It's it's insanely cool.
It's very cool. It's got very neat shots. It's got very fun characters. I love Richard Dreyfuss. He's just such a fun guy.
He's a cool actor, man.
Yeah, like him in this and Jaws. I'm just like, yeah, put him in everything.
Put him in the movie.
And I can't wait to watch American Graffiti.
Oh my goodness, American Graffiti. That movie looks so
There's
good.
a lot of like really fantastic shots, really cool effects, but at the same time it didn't fully work for me as much as I wanted to. I didn't feel anything from the end.
No.
I wanted to gosh darn feel something because that final scene is so cool, and I just didn't like. I wanted it to like I wanted it to give me chills. I wanted to be like feel like the cinema.
See, Mike,
as I often do from films that go for stuff like that.
Watching the ending of this movie, like the last like 20 minutes, it feels like staring into the face of God, like lowercase g. You know, like it's crazy.
It's cool, but like I don't know, it just didn't work for me as much as I wanted it to.
Dude, it's got short little alien guys with beady eyes.
But I wanted more of the tall guy. That tall guy, and he does like the little like.
That is like the coolest shot in the like maybe ever.
There's so many shots in this that are the coolest shots maybe ever.
And also prominently features Devil's Tower, which is a cool
and I've been
landmark.
there. I've climbed up those very same boulders.
I said like rewatching it after going to visit Devil's Tower, completely different.
It's very neat having been to Devil's Tower to watch this movie.
It's awesome, man.
And again, Ruby, you could have climbed up to the base like we did.
I could have.
You could have been like Richard Dreyfuss.
I was cold and stiff and grumpy.
It was not that cold.
I didn't want to climb the rocks when we went.
It was pretty difficult to climb through, actually.
Those are big boulders,
huge
dude.
Boulders to climb up, and you get surprisingly high. Very neat, very cool. Go to Devil's Tower. Guaranteed cool experience. You probably won't run into any aliens though.
Who knows, Micah? No guarantee.
But yeah, very, very, very cool movie that I think thematically is just doing some really, 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 really cool stuff.
Yeah. I think it's top tier Spielberg, honestly. Like
but
top 5.
It still just didn't work as much as I wanted to, leaving a lot of the movie to feel kind of meh. So I gave it a 4 out of 5.
I think you'd enjoy it more on a rewatch.
Oh, I guarantee I would. I gave it a 4 out of 5. That's still a very good rating for it.
Yeah.
It just didn't work as much as I was hoping it would.
Yeah, fair enough. I gave it like a 3.5 when I first watched it, which is crazy to me now. But yeah, it's a phenomenal film, man. Dude, like I said, that ending sequence has got to be one of the best like ever, I think, in a movie.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, we watched Close Encounters, and then last night we sat down and we watched Alien, the director's cut.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to watch so many movies. Like each night I've been like, oh, I want to watch this movie, and then I've just either been too tired or been too busy. I've
been so like sleep deprived lately for some reason, and I would keep wanting to watch movies before I go to bed, and I'm like, no, I can't. I need sleep.
But yeah, thanks for tuning in. That was what we watched this week. That was Alien. Go check out Alien.
Yeah, go watch Alien if you haven't seen it yet.
Go
and you're
check
old enough to watch Alien.
Go check out Titanic.
Oh my goodness! Again, if you're old enough to watch Titanic,
go check out Close Encounters.
Yeah, go watch Close Encounters.
And if you feel like it, go watch Little Fugitive.
Yeah, it sounds like a cool movie. I don't know.
It's very interesting.
But yeah,
Fugitive. Oh yeah, I meant to mention that Little Fugitive is like a staple of like low budget films for the time. It's like one of the only movies like ever at the time it came out to be made for like a nothing budget by an extremely small crew and get a theater run and actually some like award stuff.
Which is crazy. That's crazy no matter when you do it, honestly.
Yeah, this was like the first movie to do that, to be that kind of thing.
Crazy.
Very cool.
But yes, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, go check out my YouTube channel. I'm working on a new video right now. M. Greyway Films on YouTube. Link in the description, probably.